Hello, AuthorTube. Sorry if my voice is a little rough today. I'm suffering a bit of a cold, so if I end up coughing and my voice sounds weirder than normal, I have a cold. I hoped I would be making this video sometime later this week, preferably on Friday, but things are as they are. I ended up finishing my project last night on Sunday. In the end, it came out to being about 22,000 words, which I'm not terribly happy with. I had hoped the project would be longer, and I know some of the reasons why. I skimped on the description. I probably could have extended out some of the scenes, some of the action, but I mean that can be filled in the editing process if I decide that this version of the story works the best, or it's something I can think about if I decide that no, the setting was wrong and I should move to a contemporary or maybe a diesel punk. I've been kind of thinking about that, depending on how I want to get the politics organized. But all that aside, I mean, disappointment with the length of the project aside, I am very happy with how my NaNoWriMo turned out. Even if I didn't engage in the website and I didn't hit any of the benchmarks that they arbitrarily set, I am happy that I did finish a project, a draft, and I am very happy that I built up the habit of sitting down to the computer and writing and not getting as bogged down with the prep phase, which has plagued me for years. Is I'm always like, there's a project, I'm prepping it, and then I just keep prepping it, and I never actually put my nose to the grindstone and start to write the thing. So now I finally have that, habit that have this time where I can actually write. Now, I've mentioned in my last video, I can probably get, given my current writing period, about 2,000 to 2,500 words a day. And that's if I write from about 7 to 9:30ish with a not inconsiderate break in between to do some other things. There's also a period roughly about like from 1 to 1:45 that I can probably devote to writing 2, which might up my word count to maybe about 5,000 words a day if I'm really on the ball and I don't get distracted. Of course, I mean, that would not necessarily cut into my reading time. I know some people who've been engaged in NaNoWriMo complaining that it's cut into their reading time. And since they're primarily booktubers, it does kind of get annoying. I don't really have that problem. I have a set reading time where I usually read from about 3 to about 6:30 every day while I'm also working on supper. So if it's a relatively easy dish or a long cooking time, I can get a good chunk of reading done during the week, and then on the weekends I mostly devote the entirety of it except for from about 6:37 to 9:30 for writing. Unless there's like a really good book that I'm binging on, in which case I will read the whole day. Excuse me. Anyway, so about this project. I'm not happy with the amount of world building I did and the prep work. And I know in certain strands of heroic fantasy and sword and sorcery, a more impressionistic, a looser world building is possible. Maybe even desirable. But I don't know, it just seems like it's kind of like the world looks like every other sword and sorcery world out there, and I'm like, I really wanted to give it a little bit more heft, a little bit more depth to it. I'm also disappointed with how I handled the magic system, and part of that has to do with the character of the protagonist. And I've been meaning to film a video about this protagonist for a few weeks, and I haven't gotten around to it. I might do that for Friday. Excuse me again. So there's this character. He's basically a wish fulfillment. And I've always seen him as being like having some kind of inherent superpower or magical power, depending whether he's a superhero, some kind of magic user, or a god. And he kind of I try to insert him into every project I'm working on, particularly if it's like one that's particularly epic. And sometimes he doesn't quite fit. And I think as far as this project goes, a sort of inherent magical ability that you see in, like, say, Harry Potter, or to a certain extent Once Upon a Time or Fairy Tale. I don't think it quite really works in this project. That a more sort of learned magic system where everyone can theoretically perform the magic. It's just you need the freedom, the wealth to devote time to study, to collecting necessary materials, and the dedication to really devote yourself to this somewhat arduous calling. And given how I wanted to, the main villain's motivations, it makes sense. Why you would want to be stealing somebody else's stuff. So, yeah. So I'm needing to really kind of work that out. And if I decide to go with a diesel punk or even a contemporary, how I want to translate that. And so I'll probably be working on that soon. And then whether or not I do want to save the setting and the character names for another project or what exactly I want to do with that, depending. So my goal is to read what I've gotten over the next few days, take notes, kind of harshly criticize myself, and then decide how I want to proceed. So yeah, from here on out, so I'll try to have another video about this up later. Anyway, I think that's all I have for this update. Thank you, AuthorTube, and I will talk to you hopefully Friday.